everyone, so it's Holly and I wanted to do my new adult recommendations. And I feel like new adult is this crazy genre that's kind of hard to get into, and there's some books that are like not as good in my opinion. And so I thought I would do my recommendations, and really I have this divided into two categories. One is good like introductions to the genre, and then the other is just generally good new adult books in my opinion. And I would also say that the majority of these are not super heavy on like the over dramatic angst. I've read books like that, and occasionally I'm okay with books like that, but they're not my favorite thing. Like, I don't turn to those constantly, so I'm trying to recommend ones that aren't full of that. And I will say that, of course, Colleen Hoover, like, just read Colleen Hoover. But I will talk specifically about some of her books. Are the introduction-y books. Oh no, it's going to be three categories. I do have one that I call the lighter new adult, so we'll get there. Okay, so first is the introductions, and I have three suggestions. The first is, oh geez, Slammed by Colleen Hoover. I feel like some people would actually classify this particular book as young adult. Because of the age of your protagonist. She's 18, but she's still in high school, and she lives at home. But I think that the series as a whole is new adult, and the content that gets addressed in here is pretty new adult to me, because it's a little older. And a huge part of why I suggest this as a good introduction read is it's easy to read, it's enjoyable, it has fun characters. But in addition to that, there is no sexual content. And I feel like for some people, if you haven't been exposed to that before, it can be a little jarring to like initially be thrown into stuff like that. If you don't know what Slammed is, it's by Colleen Hoover, and slam poetry plays a huge part in these books. And the story follows a girl named Lake, and she moves to Michigan, pretty sure it's Michigan, with her mom and her brother. And when they move in, she meets her attractive, slightly older neighbor, Will, and they hit it off, and they have this like whirlwind weekend, and then the weekend's over and something huge happens, and it pulls them apart, and it's just about them struggling with should they be together or not, and all of those kinds of things. And I think this has a little bit of like, it definitely has drama, but it's not over the top, and it's pretty funny. I also think this is a pretty good introduction to Colleen Hoover. Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. So I would definitely classify this as a new adult book. It is about a girl named Kath, and she's going off to college for the first time, and she's having to be separated from her twin sister for the first time, and she has to like deal with her emotional feelings for a guy really for the first time, and all of those things. And again, there's no sexual content in here. And last is another Colleen Hoover book, and that is Maybe Someday. Full disclosure, this is my favorite Colleen Hoover book. And this one, the characters are a little older. They're in their 20s, and I feel like it's dealing with a lot less firsts, but it's still younger, and I classify it as new adult instead of like an adult contemporary romance. This one does have sexual content, but it's very mild and brief. So that's why I put it as like a good introduction read, because like if you've read Slammed and you're like, okay, I can do this, then maybe move to Maybe Someday, and then you'd be like, oh, okay, I can do this, and then move on to other new adult books. I don't know. But Maybe Someday, first of all, has a soundtrack that goes with it, and I highly suggest listening to it while reading. It's amazing. But it follows a girl named Sydney and a guy named Ridge, and Sydney finds out that her boyfriend is cheating on her with her best friend, who she lives with, so she ends up moving in with Ridge in his apartment because she needs somewhere to stay. But Ridge has a girlfriend, and Sydney and Ridge are attracted to each other, so they have to deal with those things. And I always say that just because I feel like it's important for people to know that there is that borderline cheating aspect in this book, because that does bother some people. So then I'll really how about really quick I go over the lighter new adult. Like I said, new adult seems to have a lot of angst in it, so there are two series I would suggest that are a little lighter. I've only read two books in this first series, and that's Cora Carmack's like Losing It series. But I think neither of those get overly dramatic, and they're kind of fun and funny, and I don't know, just good, easy, light, quick reads. And then next is the Bowler University novels by Megan Erickson. So there's going to be 3, 2 are out, Make It Count and Make It Right. And again, so these take place with college students, and they're in college and living life and falling in love and dealing with issues and stuff that are normal college things, basically. So then let's just talk about some other new adult that I recommend. So I'll just reach behind me and grab the book. Let's do it that way. Okay, so we have the Breathing series by Rebecca Donovan, which I've talked about this before. I consider this new adult because of the content. This is definitely more on the angsty side for sure. And oh, another thing with new adult is I think sometimes it walks the line of being an unhealthy relationship, and I will say this one is not the healthiest, but it works in the context of the story. I think the characters are a little codependent. But if you're looking for something deeper, and this is a trilogy, and it's a true trilogy, like each book is a continuation. It's not the story told from somebody else's point of view or anything like that. They are big books. They're like all 500 pages long, and they are an emotional roller coaster, but I really like them. Next is Easy by Tamara Weber, and this does have a second book, Breakable, which is really just the guy's story, but I highly suggest reading that too. I feel like this is a lot of people's introduction to new adult, and I think that's fine. This is about, and I love Easy and Breakable. I love Lucas, and I like Jacqueline too. If you don't know, this is about a girl named Jacqueline, and she is almost raped. Rape comes up a lot in new adult. A lot. She's almost raped, but she is saved by Lucas, and then kind of like this like punky looking kid, and it's just about them both dealing with their issues and all of that. And this takes place in college, and this is a very healthy relationship, and I love the way that Tamara Weber handles rape and college rape and the handling of how that occurs on a college campus. And next is Wait For You by Jay Lynn or Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is really a whole companion series. This is the first one, and then there's another book, Trust in Me, which is the same story but from the guy's perspective, and then the rest of the books are about different characters. If you've read Jennifer L. Armentrout's other stuff, like the Lex series or the Covenant series or any of her standalones, anything like that, I definitely suggest checking this out because it's her writing, so I think you would get into it really easily. But it is new adult, and it does deal with some darker topics, but I think she does a pretty good job of handling them, and she usually writes pretty amazing guys. Alright, the last physical one I have is Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. There's also Losing Hope, which again is the same story but from the guy's point of view. This one is not for everybody, but I feel uncomfortable. It's a spoiler to tell you why it's not for everybody. But this book definitely deals with some pretty intense topics, and I would definitely proceed with caution, but it is a great read. This was my first Colleen Hoover book, and I do not regret it at all. It has an amazing relationship, and the story is really good, and this is another one that's pretty light on the like sexualized content. And the last one is one I even hesitate to put in the new adult genre, but everyone else does it, so I have to leave it there, and that is Making Faces by Amy Harmon. Making Faces is about a guy who goes to war, and he's like the guy, like he's like the most popular guy in school, and he's so attractive and everybody loves him. And he goes away to war, and like all of his friends that go away with him die, and he's the only one that makes it. But he does come home horribly scarred and disfigured. And I mean, I'm a sucker for a scarred person in a book. I've been reading a lot of that lately. But he has to deal with having lost all of his friends and also looking completely different now. And then there is a romance, but in my opinion the romance is completely secondary to his growth, her growth, and then third character's story as well. It's a great story with great characters, but it is definitely high on, like, I don't want to say angst, it does have a little bit of that, but the story, it's sad tears, it's happy tears, it's sad and happy tears at the same time, and it's a book that honestly I'm not sure I can ever reread because it just put me through such an emotional roller coaster. So those are my new adult recommendations. I have read a lot of other new adult, but if you want to recommend anything, feel free down below. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.